Chapter 3: The Legacy of a Shadowhand. Ewelyn was tired, sore, and feeling humiliated. They were testing her on one of the best training warriors of the tribe, Rydan. He wanted to finish her fast. Apparently fighting her was offensive to him, but she was taking it firmly. Her combat technique wasn't appropriate according to Sarian, so she was trying her best on the few she learned by training with him. Sarian told her that Captain Javros, who makes the selections, was very straightforward about the fight style. But she knew that if she wants, Ewelyn could kick anyone's ass in there. She learned how to fight with an expert in survival, and she lived on the streets for almost 2 years before Sarian took her in, practicing, after all. Ewelyn was good with short daggers and knives, her blowgun and grapple. But they wanted her to use swords, spears, axes, or an arch, as the warriors from the tribes do. And only for the past year, when she decided to put her plan into practice, Sarian started teaching her the tribal way. The Murukai was the only tribe that was openly accepting warriors from any tribes as long as they weren't blood wardens, what Ewelyn wasn't, technically. She was a descendant from the tribes, but her life was quite different to theirs. Not that they would care. Ewelyn wasn't welcome anyway. If she could choose, she would go for the Ziamak, as Sarian was, and her flexibility and fighting background could be more appreciated there. And the other tribes never interested her anyway. Deep down, she didn't care who was going to win that war. She was only a native by blood. But at least she could fight for one of the less terrible tribes. And in the meanwhile, she could fulfill her mission. Joining the Vewens was her way to go. Sarian wasn't happy about it, but he respected her enough and helped as he could. One day, she found herself lost and having to survive on her own and nowhere to go. Ewelyn didn't know what happened to her mother at first, only that she was captured and taken away when the war began. Rydan hit her with a fast kick, and now her eyebrow was open and bleeding. That was it, she was pissed, and done with that shit. Ewelyn grunted and heard laughter from the people watching them. So with her last energy left, she put herself back up and faced Rydan. "Okay, girl, that's enough. Just give up. Javros won't take you in anyway. There are no reason to keep doing it." "Maybe I am enjoying it," Ewelyn answered with a weird smile. She grabbed the practice spear they gave her, and with a kick she broke it in two. Now she had 2 daggers to work with, much more of her style. Before Captain Javros could complain, Rydan attacked her with his sword, and to his surprise, she deviated, hitting both his knees with the broken spear and making him wobble. She grabbed his sword between the 2 halves of the spear and pulled it down and rolled it far away from him. Rydan hit her chin with his fist, and she quickly retreated to recover, but with a sequence of short and fast strokes hitting his groin, stomach, and neck, Rydan fell down in his fore, allowing her to finish him with a knee hit in his nose. Rydan passed out for 2 seconds, just enough to someone randomly claim her victory, while Javros and the other training warriors were looking stupefied. "Where did you learn how to fight, girl? We don't do these low-level moves in here," Captain Javros yelled at her while checking on Rydan, that was awaking, still dizzied. "On the streets where people survive? I thought that was what we are supposed to do in a war, to survive. But if you prefer to fight to impress the ladies, maybe I knocked on the wrong door," Ewelyn shouted while walking away. She was furious. Ewelyn was aware that she wasn't going to be selected, so they could all go to hell. No way was she going to take that beating and walk away in silence. While she was halfway outside the arena, she heard Rydan shouting, "We are going to fight again." But Ewelyn pretended she didn't hear it and didn't look back. And she went home feeling disappointed with herself. First, she couldn't fight properly as Sarian taught her, and second, she couldn't control her temper with those people. Ewelyn knew her rage could be especially useful while fighting, but she had been doing it for so long that rage became part of her, and she could barely control herself anymore when it came. When Ewelyn arrived home, a simple cabin in Ferris Vale that Sarian bought recently for them to have some peace, he was waiting for her with a congratulations cake he prepared. It was nice of him to be so confident about her success, but her silent, sad, bleeding face was enough for Sarian to know it didn't go well. "Oh, did you lose the fight? With whom they tested you?" Sarian asked. "No, I won. I beat up a guy named Rydan. By the fear people had from fighting him, he must be good." "So that's good. Didn't they choose you even winning?" "That's weird." Sarian said, cutting the cake and giving a slice to Owlin to try to make her feel better. "It is chocolate with wild berries. You like it." Owlin noticed the cake was decorated with moonfruit chews and her eyes filled with tears. "Thanks, Sarian. You are the best person I have ever met. I had to fight my way to win, and I was already reproved when that happened." Owlin answered, feeling her mouth with cake. It was too dry and didn't have enough sugar, but Owlin ate it as if it was the best cake ever. She knew Sarian put some effort into it for her. "I see. Maybe they have changed their minds. Let's keep our hope," Sarian said with a smile. "It's okay, Sarian. I can figure out another way to look for my mother." It was a long shot anyway. Sarian put away his slice of cake and held Owlin hand. "I know you are hopeful, but we still don't know what happened for sure, and if she is still alive indeed. We can always hope for a best outcome, but you should think about plan B, one that you are happy in." "What if she is? I don't want to fight for them. I don't want to fight at all. I just want my family back, Sarian. Thanks for the cake. It was delicious." "No, it wasn't," Sarian said with a laugh. "But I am happy you ate. You look destroyed. Now let me fix your face and mix some herbs for tea, and you will feel better and healing." "Thanks. You are a good friend and a great mentor. I bet you would be a really good father too," Owlin answered, stealing the filling from the cake with the tips of her fingers and licking. "I am not a family guy, as you know well, but thanks. It is my honor to be your father, even a fake one. Now go take a bath while I prepare everything for your smashed pretty face." Sarian had a pool in the backyard with natural thermal waters between the rocks. It was her favorite part of the house. Owlin entered the pool and dived, so her full body would be relieving from the sore at once. She kept thinking about her impetus of leaving the arena, and the regret took over her. Even if they wanted her in their army, she lost the opportunity with that disrespectful behavior. She didn't have the courage to tell Sarian what she had done. It was too ashaming. And for the first time in a while, Owlin considered giving up on her quest. But what was she going to do from now on? Owlin didn't know what is next. There was nothing she wanted besides her old life back. What else could she possibly want in life to make her move forward? She couldn't find a satisfactory answer. The emptiness of her life that she was feeling deep down in her chest made her cry, and her heart ached intensely. Owlin hid underwater to not be seen crying. But who would have seen her? Once more, she mentally thanked fate for having Sarian that gave her a place to live, food, and support. "Let me know when you are ready," Sarian shouted from the porch. Owlin finished her bath and got dressed, trying to make her brain stop working for a second so she could breathe. She went to the kitchen and found her tea over the table, a blanket, and some butter cookies. "Oh, here you are. There was a messenger outside with this letter," Sarian said, waving the paper to her from the entrance while removing his shoes to go inside. "I believe it is for you." For a moment, Owlin was paralyzed, concerned with the content of the letter. Sarian signed her up for the recruiting test as his daughter, Aziamak. She had to prove her ancestry to apply for the Voan's test, and Sarian solved the matter for her. What if her behavior causes him trouble? Sarian opened the letter, and after rereading a couple times with a surprised expression, he extended his arm and showed her the content. "Captain Javro sends his greetings for being accepted as a Voan in training and a potential Murakai warrior. Be present with your parent or closest relative by sunrise at the training arena for the orientations about the next steps and proper negotiations about the rewards and compensations proportions of an active Voan." And in the end, on the note in the corner, she could read, "And I need to speak with you in private. Tell the messenger the place and time. I am waiting for your answer. Raidan." Owlin smiled and said, "I am in." "We did it, Sarian." "You did it! And what do I tell the messenger outside?" "I know you are pretty, but I have never seen someone find a boyfriend that fast. Not even me." And Sarian laughed out loud. "Shut up! He is not my boyfriend. I just beat him up," she answered, laughing as well. "Oh, he likes his woman wild then." The closest thing Owlin could find that gladly was a soft, overripe banana she threw at Sarian. And while both were laughing at it, The messenger whistled from the front door as he was still waiting for the answer. "Okay, I am going to tell him to meet you at midday in the arena tomorrow, since we will be already there and probably the negotiations will be over by then." "Is he handsome?" Sarian said, laughing some more while deviating from another flying banana. "Sounds like a good plan. Go ahead," Awalin said, taking a sip of her tea. Whatever Raiden wanted to chat with her, she was sure wasn't romantic at all. But she was curious. And yes, he was handsome, or were, before the bleeding nose she gave him earlier that day. Messenger sent. "So what happened exactly?" "I am not an expert in Voan's selection, but that was unusual." Awalin then told him everything that happened that day while he was applying some herbal poultices on her wounds. She was scared that Sarian would be disappointed with her, but he just laughed even harder. "Now I understand." Makes a lot of sense. If that other kid wants payback, he will do it during training, so be careful, Awalin. Whatever he has to say, stay alert and let me know immediately. "Don't worry, I know how to take care of myself, and I am curious about this meeting, not worried. I just feel like I need to sleep forever, to recover, and wake up before the sunrise will be tough," she said. They were silently drinking their tea for a few when they heard the whistle again. How did he come back so fast?" Awalin asked, and following Sarian to the porch, she saw the messenger with an answer in his hands. Sarian got the note and walked back towards her when the messenger pulled out from his back a pair of long brown wings and left flying back to Elder Tree. "Oh, he is a blood warden. That's how he came so fast. And I have to say, Awalin, this kid Raiden must be something if he gets a blood warden to work or do favors for him. You should keep that in mind when you speak with him tomorrow." "I agree. If I can, I will make him my ally," Awalin answered. "Or a friend. You could use some friends, you know." "I know it's hard for you, but you are no longer on the streets and the Murokai are usually decent people. I want you to be happy. That's what your father would like." "Please don't remember me of him, Sarian." Awalin's eyes were wet from tears, but her voice was severe. "Of course. You need to rest and not to be disturbed about the emotional impulses of this old man. Come, let's get you warm and safe inside." Awalin went to bed, even being daylight, to recover from the fight. Raiden had a heavy hand on her, so her body was really hurt. The selection for outsiders was later in the day, so the new Vowans, kids from 11 to 17 years old from the tribe, were watching them and mocking and remembering. It pissed her off again. These kids in the tribe had more than one chance to become warriors, so the ages were wide, but for outsiders like her, the minimum age was 16 years old, plus a tested background and prior knowledge about combat. She had none. But Sarian had lots of friends and was a very dedicated, quote, adoptive father. Raiden was there for a while since he has a reputation. Maybe he was 18, 19 years old? The best kids wanted to fight him, and the majority of them were praying not to have to, so Awalin wasn't excited when they chose him to test her. She was the only girl among the outsiders that was being tested that day, and choosing Raiden meant they weren't super excited about her presence, obviously. Not that would matter, she wasn't looking to make friends anyway. Hamelin fell asleep and started dreaming. She was back in the arena, and it was empty, illuminated by a full moon. She could see birds flying around, probably blood wardens on watch. The tribes that weren't in power had few magic left to use, and it was rare to have great demonstrations of totems. Maximum would be some of them having wings or inaccurate vision. The Kuraash, however, could manifest full, powerful human vultures amongst their blood wardens, and every time she had a nightmare with birds, she knew it was about them because of what happened the day her life fell apart. She was terrified, waiting for them to swoop down and catch her with their claws. As always, she tried not to fear them, but she couldn't. Suddenly, she heard a noise behind her. Awalin turned around and faced a black panther, beautiful and terrifying. She tried to draw her daggers and noticed that she was unarmed. The panther jumped over her, but she felt softly on the floor, as if she was being held. She opened her eyes and watched the panther becoming a person as he slowly fell over her body. And she woke up, painful. She was sweating and probably having a fever. She tried to get out of bed, but it was hard. Sarian left her a board with water, more tea, some fruit, and a note above a bell, written for her to ring it if she needed help. It was dark, and Owlin did not want to bother Sarian, so she drank as much water as she could, and the tea that was already cold. She didn't eat anything, but the tea made her sleepy enough to go back to bed. Once again, she dreamed. She was back to the arena, and the panther was gone. There were still birds flying in the dark, and she could hear a voice, someone she knows, calling her name. She walked towards the voice, but it wasn't getting any closer. Owlin stopped, feeling insecure for a moment. The voice then got louder, and she realized it was coming from the sky. There was a bird diving in her direction, still yelling her name. Bah! When the bird was almost touching her, the panther jumped rolling with her in the grass. The bird was gone, and the panther was far and running desperately towards her. She couldn't understand why, and suddenly, a strong white light covered her eyes, blinding her, and she woke up. It was still dark, and Sarian was calling her name. Come on, we have to be in the arena by the sunrise, and you don't want to be late for your first day. She got up, feeling a lot better, and got dressed as fast as she could. Sarian had sandwiches for them to eat fast before getting their horses to go. The arena was in one of the lowest and largest branches of the tree in the Murakai side, so it was an easy way to go and go back from their town. When the sun started rising, they were already in the bottom of the tree. The horses were able to go through the excavated trails in the woods, but the guards didn't allow outsiders to have their horses up, and they had to move forward on foot for some more time. While they were walking, Sarian was explaining to her the proportions they were talking about in the message. The parents decide how many of the Vowan's money would be given to them and the family until they turned 18 years old, when the money was totally given to the Vowan. It was some sort of reward for giving their child away to become a warrior for the tribe. I don't need any money from you, you know I have a good life, but if you want me to save any for you, let me know, and I ask for the restitution. I can keep it safe for you if you don't want to have everything on the Vowan's accommodation. But it's good to have a certain amount with you so you can live well in the tribe. If I could choose, I wouldn't stay in the accommodations at all, but I prefer that you keep a good amount. Half-half, maybe? Owlin suggested. I think you should keep more, at least 70%, but don't spend it all. The other part, one can save for you, and when you return, you will have some money to start over with your mother. Sarian said. Sounds good! They were almost in the arena, and the other outsider new Vowans were also arriving. Very few of them were approved, after all, 5 counting with her, and she was the youngest, apparently. From the moment Owlin arrived, people stared at her. She didn't feel uncomfortable. It was hard to intimidate her. Sarian was amused by the situation, and having some fun with their posture around Owlin. You already made yourself a reputation. We should greet your fans. And with a laugh, Sarian started to wave at the people around, making Owlin to laugh with him. Don't let them bother you. One thing I have learned in my years in the politics of Brindlehold is that no one can corner someone that is in the center of the stage. I understand, Sarian. I will remember that, Owlin answered, giving her arm to him. Father, remember to call me father in there. Sarian was extremely popular due to his business deals and relationship with several politics and community leaderships in the towns. But amongst the tribes, he was just a rich Ziamak doing shady negotiations in Faraz Vale. He allowed the rumors to run everywhere about the discovery of his illegitimate daughter to build a safe ground for Owlin, which ended up being particularly useful for her to apply for the Murakai Vowans later. 1 year before, when she turned 15, Owlin was introduced to society as his beloved only child, and even some marriage proposals appeared, mostly from rich merchants with single sons in Yarun's Cross. Owlin was indeed a beautiful young lady, but her objectives were far from it. Sarian declined the proposals with his best apologies, saying she wasn't ready to marry yet, and only at her 18th birthday would they start looking for an appropriate husband for her. Later is always better than a no, especially to preserve social contacts. But Owlin was smart and allowed some of the young men to approach her in more than one occasion, to disguise any interests. They worked very well as partners, and Sarian knew that if he ever had a daughter, he wished it was like Owlin. Sarian actually suggested she think about the proposals. Some young men interested in her were good people and could provide her a happy, prosperous life. But Owlin was too attached in the past to think about the future, and he respected her decision, supporting her in the choice she made. There was a complex near the arena, and they were sent there to speak with Captain Javros directly. When they got in, Raiden was waiting in the entrance of Javros's room. "I will wait for you at noon, don't forget. My regards to your father." And with a quick bow to Sarian, he left back to the arena. "I did ask you about him. He is handsome, and you didn't told me. That was not nice. I could have been prepared," Sarian said, making Owlin to laugh aloud. "I had once a lover that looked like him. One of my favorites, I must say. He lived in Westrom near to the beach. Unfortunately, a sailor's heart belongs to the sea, and one day he left to never come back. I am sorry to hear that, Sarian. I hope your sailor returns to you one day. Maybe Raiden is his relative. I can ask if he is from Westrom or anywhere near it." Owlin answered, still giggling. Raiden had the golden skin of a native, his eyes were purple and the skin dark as chocolate, with a long braided hair that fell until his waist. He was taller and stronger than most natives she knew, and she felt attracted to him at first sight, until she fought him. "Let's stop daydreaming. It's time for negotiations." And Sarian knocked at Captain Javros' door.